And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's 2 o'clock on Sunday. Bow, bow, bow. At some point, I'm gonna have a little touchpad and I'll have my audio, but I don't have that for right now. What we're going to show you in the next 30 seconds, I'm actually putting it together now. We're going to start with potentially segregation of the U.S. military. Actually, before I do that, we're at 159. Let me give greetings. Let me take a moment of gratitude. I have a strong agenda. If you're catching this live, you're in for a treat. I'll lay some groundwork and all of that later. What I will say is, welcome to the space. What I'm going to do is just click this button to go live on my app, and people will be coming in. So now that I'm here, I have far less than 30 seconds now to tell you what's going to happen today. We're going to start with the segregation of the military, if I have my way, during the featured section. Then we're going to talk about some other noteworthy milestones. Boom, bing, bang. Then I want to talk specifically about Backy versus Regents and Clarence Thomas. I've looked into him a little bit and I'm excited about what may come up from that. I have a special guest, so be prepared for a great conversation. Corporations and affirmative action, timeline of adoption. Quite interesting, the corporate interest in affirmative action and DEI. Okay. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to stop that one here. Corporate interest will be, what is that, number next? And then we're going to talk about the professionalization of DEI. Hopefully, we can cover all this ground, but that's what's on my agenda. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Educator's House, we're up in here, going live. I'm going to drop the link for anyone who might be in. Sorry. Let me take a moment of gratitude. I'm going to check in with my live community, which is on Clubhouse. At some point soon, if you're catching the live, I'm going to be so smooth with it that I can drop in. Let me get rid of this. I can drop in. You see how clunky that was. I'll be able to drop the stuff in. What's up, Tracy? What's up, Nazi? I'm just getting into Clubhouse. Trying to do this simulcast is a mess. Nazi, I'm going to send you an invite because you know how our structure works if you are free to come up. All right. Look at the team. Carla's up in here. I'm going to mute Nazi. I'm going to lay some groundwork. So ping if you care. Okay. While I'm doing some housekeeping, anyone who hasn't clicked off, maybe you'll be open to the reality of the live stream. What I want to do is take a moment of gratitude. YouTube, bing, bang, boom. Pause that and capture this. Copy over to the club. My co-moderators. Let me do that while I'm here. 1, 2. PTR. Tracy is amazing. Holding space. Pin the link. Paste it here. Ready to begin. If you prefer a live experience, you can catch what's happening right now over on YouTube. I'm working things out. Suffice it to say. What do I say? Good morning. This is Educator's House. Good afternoon, good evening. Live professional grade weekly conferences. We meet almost every Sunday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern time. What else can I say? Gamified model. Oh, wait. Let me respect the people who are here. My mods know what's up, but this is now YouTube Live. So let me offer a different energy. This is Educators House. What we are is a community of educators who come together and we talk about the real important issues and we push each other beyond our current points of view. I am offering a professional grade conference on this application. At some point, I'll be able to share the link with you live. We look, what's best for me is Sunday after church. It's a relaxing time where we can get together and get geared up. What else can I say? Tackling tough. I'll leave a lot of that for your experience. I've got a diversity, equity, and inclusion experience that I've been holding on to, I have a special guest. His name is Marshall, professional historian, who might help walk us through this more modern portion of this segment. And what else can I say? Oh, let's talk about groundworks. So, the way that this community works for you that is on the YouTube experience, give me a moment. Let me share this. Bing, bang, pulling, and then boom. I'll figure it out. Um, I want to talk about the what I consider the second phase of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I have some replays, so I'm not going to go too far back into history. What I will say is around the 1965 mark, plus or minus, we experienced a real surge in energy around diversity, equity, and inclusion. If I was a historian, and it may be worth value, maybe this is what I put on the Patreon. Someone suggested the history between where we stopped last week and where we are now is really rich in American tradition. So we talk about Jim Crow laws, we could talk about lynching, which will come up in today's conference. So unfortunately, I have to skip over something that's really dear to my heart in the interest of the community. We're going to pick up this story of diversity, equity, and inclusion around the 60s. We're going to see a few characters. So let me welcome you to what this is. In terms of how the room is structured at 6 minutes after the hour, I have about four segments. The first segment is what we call first takes. And shout out to Nazi and Carla who are here. Bill, welcome to the space. Laura, I expect to see a lot of pink tickets because we're relatively warming this room back up. We're going to take first takes just to the title and see what my co-stage mates think about it. Then we're expecting Marshall to come through, but if not, I'm going to march it down with my group. And we'll just take it from there. I expect more people will come, so I'm not going to spend too much time waiting. I think we should just get right into this. So someone recommended I get ChatGPT to help me take notes. We are moving into the first takes. What I will do is say ping and share at this point. We're early in the space, letting people know. I'm not going to do it because I want to stay present to this experience. So if you are here and there's 2 or 3 people that you know, feel free to ping. All right, that brings us to first takes. Nazi, Carla, welcome to the space. Let me give greetings in space to you guys. Maybe you can update me on if you can participate fully. So I'll start with Nazi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Feel free to introduce yourself and offer whatever your first take is to the title that you see.
Sure. I'm Nazi Padarov. I'm an educational diagnostician working on my PhD at Texas Women's University in special education. And uh, uh, I missed last Friday's homeroom, but I did listen to the replay. And I was like, oh, gosh, darn, I wish I could have had a chance to participate in that because I wanted to tell you, you were going over critical theory. And I didn't know that critical theory actually extended, there's critical race theory, but what I've learned now is critical disability theory is also another another spinoff of critical theory. And I love critical disability theory because it really just helps you to understand. And you were saying earlier that race is a societal construct. And I think that's something we don't really realize. Race is a societal construct. All the things of DEI are societal constructs, and it's just a shame that our society would exclude anybody for any reason. But it's people feel threatened and they feel like that they can't. Uh, have if somebody else has that everything's a competition. But if you really understand critical disability theory, you really start to understand even what being human is. So I what I learned about critical disability theory is that a disability is not something that we can always obviously know. Look at somebody and be like, yeah, this person has a disability. It has to do with the person's own perception of their abilities. It has to do with the societal limits that society puts on people. And it also has to do with the significance of the disability. So all three of these will come together to create a disability. Otherwise, it's an impairment. And all of us have impairments, but not all of us have disabilities. And the thing that made me learn about what humanism was, but what it is to be human, was we studied about how there was so we looked at a person who was a quadriplegic and didn't have a wheelchair, didn't have a place to live, did not have any quality of life, and he wanted to die. And that's where, he sought legal help, um, to get to assist in his death. And then when he got permission to die, then people came to his aid and were like, no, 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 we can get you the wheelchair, we can improve your quality of life. And they improved it, and they're like, okay, you have legal right to kill yourself, do you want to? And he was like, no, I don't want to now. So what makes a DNR is if somebody's brain dead, you could say, well, okay, you could kill that person. That person can die because they're brain dead. So what makes a person human is the quality of life that the others in the society can provide for them. And it doesn't matter if it's disability, if it's race, if it's you know sexuality, whatever it is, we all deserve a quality of life. But it's actually disabilities that teaches us that, because all of us could have a disability. So that's the part I hope that wasn't too long-winded, but that's the part I wanted to share from listening to the last part about critical theory and the spinoff of critical disability theory. But if you don't understand disabilities, you won't understand what it is to be human. What's the value of somebody's life? When can we have a DNR on someone and say, you know what, their life is too far gone, let them go? That then you don't understand what it is to be you. So to me, it's too you can't it's not a choice. It's not, do you believe in this or do you not believe it? It's just a of course. So that's my take. Sorry, I landed my plane okay.
No, you're doing great. I hope you can hear me. I'm still toying with this audio. I want to pick up right where you left off because it really, Carla, please be patient. Nazi got me triggered. So we're going to cook a little bit and then I'll come right to you. I promise. Um, I have looked at this. Since you talk about critical theory, I want to talk about the other side of this. Thank you, ma'am. Which is this classical theory, is what I'm going to refer to it as. I figured it out, what I want to call it. They say that the raw science is separate from that. So this idea of critical disability theory, on the one hand, we have the opportunity to recognize, and you've said this on multiple occasions, that we are all going to experience it in one way or another at one time or another. So let us be compassionate to the cutouts on the curb. Um, but the justification is for those who believe in classical theory, says, according to the objective numbers, and we have done all of the standard deviations, and we have accounted for one or even two standard deviations, and we have calculated to a confidence interval alpha of 0.05, and you guys are just in the zone of rejection. We're sorry. And so that's part of what I think is concerning, is those who say the objective fact is separate from the context in which the objective fact was derived, create a immoral justification. We've seen it through history, a justification for something that really, you're doing wrong. It's not right, but it's convenient. All right, I'm sorry. Let me get down. Let me climb down off of this big soapbox and offer to Carla. Greetings, Carla. Welcome. Please introduce yourself. Tell us your first takes to the title. The mic is yours.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity, Hassan, Nazi, Mimi, and others.
Yeah.
So your topic, Hassan, DEI from progress to backlash. It felt initially, my first take was, that's backwards, right? We had backlash and then progress. And then I thought, well, no, we have progress and now we have backlash. So I think your title is really, really important, and it speaks to something that I hope you're going to explore further as we talk. But when I heard the topic, it made me start to think, how I saw progress and then how I saw backlash. So like you mentioned from the 60s forward. So from the 60s forward, we saw things like the Civil Rights Act, right? And then we started seeing affirmative action programs in place in the 70s. And between that time from like probably the mid 70s, I don't know, maybe late 90s, you saw, I believe if we looked at the statistics, we would see that there was Black enrollment at universities was higher than it may appear now. It seems to be dropping, right? So workplaces were focused on diversity programs and trying to live out what they thought it meant to be fair and equitable, right?
Fair and equitable.
We saw it in healthcare as well. You know, in the underprivileged communities, there did not seem to be as much access, right? So there was programs in hospitals to beef that up as well. But now, I think looking at where we are now, we are seeing backlash, right? We started to see Supreme Court rulings banning race-related admissions.
Let's talk about it.
And we're starting to see the dismantling of DEI and the policies by our current person in office. And as a result, you have to sit back and wonder, where are we on this pendulum? Where is it swinging? Where is it going? And how do we begin to understand what is happening so that we can affect positive change, particularly in education, because as our younger people are not necessarily being provided the access that they need to solid education and solid opportunity, that's where it starts. That's like the foundation. So if they're not foundationally sound, then the building will never be as strong as it can be. So those were my initial thoughts. Thank you.
Bing, bang, boom. Bing, bang, boom. On the double take. Hold on one second. Let me do this. And I'm back. Yeah. I wrote down so many notes, but you are a woman of God. I can say that publicly. Thank you for that. Where I stand as far as what you're talking about is this issue of the backlash. You nailed it. Where I want to go, and how do I say? What do we do when we put things in a container? You've classified it in a great way. The issue of the court, the issue of the corporate response, and the issue of the university response is what I hope to march down. So I think you're spot on. Let me back up a little bit because it might be time to cook, but it might be also time to open up the stage. So let me see who's available. Jason, I'm going to send you an invite. Uella, Mimi is our resident secretary for the record. So feel free to greet the chat, Mimi, if you're open for that. And Bill, the stage is yours. I'll send you an invite as well. It looks like we got a small crew, so I will do it like that. What we were expected to do, and I'm going to give you the mic next, Jason, just for you to do your first take. Actually, let me not bias it. I love first takes. So thank you, Jason, for coming up. Why don't you offer your first take to the title and introduce yourself? The mic is yours.
Okay, thanks. I'm Jason Bernard. I love this because I'm retired. I have time for these things. My name is Jason Bernard Humphreys Kinte. I'm the son of Bernard Humphreys, who was a scholarship winner from Antigua, who came to Canada on scholarship and did his Bachelor of Commerce at a university formerly known as Ryerson in Toronto. I'm a scholarship winner as well. I won 7 scholarships at the University of Toronto, worked at Microsoft, and I planned my career on one document. I'm the only one in the world with his teaching. It's called a Target Resume. I put Prime Minister on there, Nobel Peace Prize for negotiating peace in the world, hopefully the Middle East too, and honorary doctorates. In 1999, I was diagnosed with genius illness, schizoaffective psychosis disorder. 2 weeks, they couldn't figure out my brain. And 23 years later, I retired with $1 million exit and the world's first 25-year legacy life strategy book course complete and $25,000 legacy scholarship and coaching program built at Freedom Academy. In other words, I finished first.
Right, Jason, tell us what you think about the
I'm
topic.
done speaking.
No, tell us your thoughts on the
that's
topic.
my introduction. And my thoughts on the topic is basically that I think that it's the positive take on what Donald Trump is doing worldwide is he's putting mediocrity based on privilege for wealth and race on display. And I think there will be no doubt within a couple years that it actually is an impediment when people are racist and sexist, as I think is the basis of why he was elected twice in front of two more qualified women, the latter, also Black. And I think that there will be no credible way for people to state that, it's white men are better or something like that. He's putting the white male mediocrity on display, and it's going to destroy the United States. I'm done speaking.
And Jason, you're like a comet, not an asteroid. You come and then you're gone. I love it. Thank you for that share, sir. I'm going to give greetings to Uella Scott King. She runs a fantastic space over on Chatter. So let me give a unpaid acknowledgement to what Uella Scott King is doing over on Chatter. It's a very interesting app because they include this more visual component where you can stream things while you're having an audio only conversation. It's really good technology. They're building it out. From what I hear, version 2 is coming out real soon. So shout out to the Chatter people, but Chatter only gets credit because Uella Scott King is a creator on that stage. So definitely want to check her out. Later, Renette, welcome. I see you have a pink ticket. Chill for a second. We're going to have this very pressing conversation. It looks like an intimate stage. So I think we're going to cook through this march along this more modern version of DEI. And you're more than welcome to come up. Al, I've seen you on several stages. So even though you have a pink ticket, come on up if you want to weigh in. I'll let you get the temperature of the room, but I'll swing back around to you in a bit. What would have happened typically to the guys that are on the stage and those may be watching online is I would have invited, I've been working on the back channels with someone named Marshall. He's a historian, seems like a great guy, came highly recommended by someone that I know, like, and trust. But you know how it is here. Everybody's volunteering, so I can't hold hard expectations. What I wanted to do was to have his studied point of view on this march through the history of diversity, equity, and inclusion, starting loosely from the 60s and what we call the civil rights movement, what some call the human rights movement, all the way through to my favorite character in the whole, my second favorite character in the whole movie, Clarence freaking Thomas, and his role in affirmative action, DEI, even getting to the Supreme Court seat. What a superhero's journey. There's several documentaries about him. Check him out. He's amazing. So what I think we should do, because we have a small stage, is actually walk through this piece by piece and just see if you guys want to weigh in on this march as a community. Let's see what we can cook up. So that's what I'm saying. Open stage to anybody who wants to come up. Okay, now that I've laid that little bit of groundwork, those of you who might be listening on YouTube, I just want to let everybody know we are live streaming this on YouTube, so you can click the link above if you prefer the more video experience. I wanted to start briefly, you guys, with the desegregation of the U.S. military as sort of the historical groundwork. So I really want to kind of open this journey in the 1940s when we're talking about World War II. And as with the Civil War, let rumor tell it, they couldn't have won without Black bodies in the war. And so we were doing essential services, even though we weren't necessarily on the front line, right? So there was a situation where the first and apparently only uniformed military officer was murdered on, I think, a U.S. base because apparently his race. But it really transcended race at that point because they also attacked a military officer. So it was a really complicated time. And basically the president, maybe it was Truman at the time, had desegregated the military. And this sort of laid the framework for that sort of justification for diversity, equity, and inclusion. since it was shut down way back in the Freedmen's Bureau. Not going to go there. Go back and check out some of the replays on the YouTube channel. So that's kind of my point of departure. Al, I don't know if you can speak to that because I know we've only shared the stage a few times, but I do want to extend the mic. So if you want, feel free to introduce yourself. If you have a response to that particular time in history, you're welcome to, or whatever comes up for you when you see the title to the top. And I'll invite up Nerd Swag during the meantime. All right, sir, if you're ready, the mic is yours.
Oh, I was looking at that video.
Oh, I see. There's a bit of a delay, right? So you're going to have to like jump forward through the wormhole of time to weigh in from the stage and then come back to the video portion. And when you do, you'll transport back in time to about 6 seconds. Nerd Swag, what's up, my bro? Let me get Al and see if he wants to weigh in now or if he wants to come in a bit later, and then I'll bring you in. Al, you want to jump in now or you want to come in later? And let me
jump in a little later.
All right, for sure. Okay, Nerd Swag is in the building. Like Al, he and I have shared stages, so I'm very curious to see how this conversation goes. Nerd, I know you just got to the stage, but I just finished setting the stage. So without any bias, let me pass you the mic. Feel free to introduce yourself and give us your first takes to the title.
Hey guys, good afternoon. I'm based in New York. I am not in the education sector, but I do have opinions about it. So the rise, I think you changed it, DEI from progress to backlash. There's an element of truth of it, but unfortunately, this did not begin yesterday. Mm-hmm. One thing in particular I am concerned about is, as it pertains to DEI, is Black men specifically. There have never been enough Black male educators in general, but I want to say over the past 30 years, especially, there has been too many Black men leaving the occupation. So my short answer is this is unfortunately nothing new. We need incentives specifically for Black men to guide these young Black boys, because that's why the educational outcomes for young Black boys are not good. Is simply there's not enough Black male teachers. It's largely a budget issue. There are other things, complexities you have to adjust. The workplace environment has to be more friendly to Black male teachers in general, but Agreed. Pay is just going to be your number one thing. If you can't get the pay to a level in which they can raise a family, it's just not going to work. It's not in a man's nature to basically not try to improve his financial situation.
Right. Okay, that was a great first take. I see Lancernaut is here, so I'm going to invite you up to the stage. Give me a moment while I cook a little bit, and then I'll pass the mic to you. What an interesting evolution of this experience. What can I say? PTR this. Check on this. I want to give acknowledgement to Leticia Wilson. She's over on the YouTube channel. She gave her first take to the title as well. Double Dutching, support of funding, then lack thereof, corporate support, hiring practices, and I'm going to add virtue signaling and the lack thereof. So thank you very much. Did DEI go too far? I'm going to share what I think is interesting about what you said, Nerd. The issue of the pay, the issue of the environment, and the issue of culture. I think you're absolutely right. I'm going to yield to Lancernaut, but I will say is I have been in deep reflection about the experience of the Black boy in K-12. And maybe that's a whole nother room where you and I can really go deep on it. For now, I'm going to push forward to Lancernaut. We're still in first takes mode at 28 minutes after the hour. So Lancernaut, before we really get to cooking, thanks for coming up to the stage. Go ahead and introduce yourself and talk about your first take to the title. If you're available, the mic is yours.
Hello. So I kind of wanted to say something in response to what he was saying about melanated men in the workplace of education. And then I'd like to say my posit to the title in that order, if that's okay.
Be mindful of your time. That's okay.
Okay. So I think that the educational structure and payment is actually really good if you structure it right, because you're underneath a medium income of getting highly taxed, and then your summer's off, and then you just have to reposition yourself when it comes to the entrepreneurial endeavors. So there's a lot of people who seek to be an educational professional because they're understanding the permanency in the position, and all the other things that they could do on the outside. And kids are like the forefront of innovation, so they're able to adjust their entrepreneurial endeavors in that way. And then I'll go to the title now. So they had a diplomacy framework for the National Space Council, in which I literally modeled my entire company under a framework with DEI. DEI is changing now into, I believe, workforce innovation, and they have other hashtags like public Black institutions and a couple other hashtags I don't remember on a global aspect, because they do implement on the UN SDG goals what DEI and all those other things stand for. So I don't know if there's backlash just yet, because from a global standpoint, what we implemented in the US, I haven't seen it carry forth in current and future contracts, which was really interesting to me. So I think the backlash is more so social when it comes to the position of it. But as far as employment, it was more so all the people in the senior positions that were under Kamala Harris that were affected, but that was just a use case for the government was too top heavy anyway. So they just needed an excuse. That's what I see.
You know, it's true, but I think what you experience extends way farther than the scope of what you're talking about, though I appreciate you staying in your lane. But there is, especially at the university level, which is part of my lane, a criticism that upwards, according to some statistics of certain universities, I'll have to drop it in another time if you press me for the citation, have up to 12%. In other words, there is, for every 12 professors, there's one non-academic DEI officer whose job is nothing but really bureaucratic, whatever. I'm going to dot that with a good ellipsis. So I think that this idea of their presence is common. Okay, let me land my little thing because I don't want to go too far until we really get to popcorn style. Lady came up on stage, so I want to hold space for first takes. Victorious and Miss Sundata, you guys are both welcome to come up onto the stage. We're taking first takes to the title, and then we're going to moderate a discussion with each other. So if you want to come up, raise your hand. Lady Renette, please. We're doing good so far. The mic is yours.
Thank you. Greetings to everyone. I love the topic, from progress to backlash. I used to work in the Department of Education, not as a federal employee, but as a contractor for a number of years.
Ooh.
And also I have 3 children that I put through the public educational system, all the way from
Bang, boom.
pre-K through college. So I have a lot to say, both from a parental standpoint, as a person who has been, my career has been in supporting particular agencies, as well as looking at it, even volunteering in the school systems, in terms of how it treats fairly or unfairly our children, our next generation. The one thing I do want to say, I don't know if it's going to be brought up or not, this is really, intended apparently to go under the title, Title VI, Civil Rights Act, discrimination based upon race, color, or origin. The Department of Education was never supposed to exercise the control that they have over the school systems. It was created as a temporary placement agency, not as it is today. And so I'm really listening in on what we are going to be talking about today, because I have my opinions. DE&I saw what happened in different corporations, not just for me personally, but a lot of my colleagues around the country. We would call each other and compare notes about what the companies were doing as it pertains to DE&I, what measurements they were taking, and then how they started backpedaling even before these conversations in which the current government has put in place. So once the marches stopped, once people start paying attention, they start rolling back those particular what do you call it? People that were in those positions. And so, me personally, until I can hear maybe different opinions, I think DE&I should stand for divorcing our educators from the integration and creating our own space and teaching our own children, youth, as well as some of the older ones who didn't get the real information about who we are, our history, and move forward with that. But I'll yield on that.
Who? Who we? She gonna land on that. We need to start from there. Woo, that was great. Lady, thank you for coming into the space. That was a powerful contribution. Divorcing educators from integration is not what I expected to launch into, but honestly, if the community is ready for that, we could just put the pepper right into the sauce right now. We don't have to hold back. All right, I think the stage has been clear. I'm going to just give greetings to the people on the stage in the listening lounge. If you want to come up, we're in first takes phase. Let your voice be heard, and then we're going to cook a little bit as we march through history. So I've already said what's up to Sandata. I don't even know who's here, so let me just send out invites. I pray there's no trolls. All right, I pray that we are here in good intent. Okay, I'm going to check in with YouTube, support and stay in community like this. It sounds like we're doing the exact right thing. I did look into the Civil Rights Act. It looks like Title 567 of the Civil Rights Act, according to ChatGPT, which talks about prohibits employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. So it looks like that would be Title 7 of Civil Rights Act 1964. Okay, nobody's raised their hand, so I think it's time for us to push into the agenda for today. So I thought about, I've already laid the groundwork for those who just came onto the stage around the issue of segregation in the military. I use that as a point of departure for this historical segment, if you will. Black man got killed. What is his name? Felix, Mr. Felix Hall, 19-year-old black soldier stationed at Fort Benning in Georgia. Was murdered. Apparently, the rumor says, I can't confirm it, that he was in uniform. So this was the use case for it to go beyond race, right? Because now he was in military, so it was really an attack on them. So I use that as the canary in the coal mine to start integrating the military, which happened in the 40s. But there's some other things before I really want to pass the mic around. I mean, we could talk about Brown versus Board of Education. You're talking about 1954. Emmett Till in 1955, that's around the time that the Montgomery boycott took place. Then you've got all the acts. So this is kind of, for me, the beginning of it. Civil Rights Act 64, Voting Rights Act 65, Fair Housing Act, Title IX, which is about protecting sex as a class. So there was momentum for this issue of DE&I to come back up, right, off the heels of Jim Crow laws and the Ku Klux Klan ruling things, if I can coin a phrase. So anyway, with that being said, I want to look at DEI from progress, right? So I want to acknowledge the momentum and open up the stage to anyone who wants to respond to the issues that were happening during that phase of history. So I'm going to close my mic, see if anything came up for anybody, and then we can march forward from there.
Yeah, I'll just say in response to what Lady said, I agree that, a lot has to be done by parents. And, I've sold my house twice, so parents can do that. And parents still in general aren't doing that. And I think that's the biggest problem that is solvable. Because, for instance, if you're a parent and you're sending your child to a school and they're telling the black kids that they're inferior, it's your responsibility to correct that. And if the parents aren't involved, look, as an educator, I think all educators know if the parents are counteracting your actions as good as they may be, right? If you don't have parental support, and if you have the opposite, where the parents are reinforcing bad habits or not valuing the education, letting the kids not do their homework or
Check.
not saying school is important, and you're saying school is important, do your homework, they're working
Check.
against you, right? So if you have a
Check.
school system that is not, empowering the young people or just not doing the right thing or teaching them a lie that they're not capable or anything, then, it's your responsibility as a parent to work against that, to get involved or send your kids to another school. But if the parents are not involved, that's it's theoretically a solvable problem by us, regardless of what's happening at the school. I was successful because my parents made sure I was. I have really positive stories about my dad. Actually, I had a teacher from South Africa. Just personal quick example. I had a teacher from South Africa that gave me a D instead of an A by mistake, apparently. The only reason I found out he said he would have made a mistake is because my dad asked him, how am I going to get a D? What's he not do? It was in gym for all the things. And he said, oh, it was a mistake. And my mom wouldn't have said anything. So I think that parents have to get involved. I was successful because my dad. That's it.
Right.
So I'd like to say something lastly about this topic, right? So in order for you to be included, you'd have to first know that you're excluded. And if they say that slavery is over, why are they telling people that they're excluded to then work on a way for inclusion, to then promote a policy that promotes inclusion and then do away with it or play around with it? And then what I realized too is that in primary schools, they're not teaching certain things in certain ways to people who are melanated versus other schools. Like, let me start off with saying that, all of you guys have a history of slavery. What? Like, what are you talking about? So I literally had to take my niece and nephew to Africa and show them how people live free and work free and all kinds of stuff, and just be like, walk the streets at 10 o'clock at night, whatever, in the village. Like, I was not playing with allowing a colonial system to teach kids that I love on some kind of exclusion, inclusion, hashtag remix. I don't play that shit.
Nerd, you want to jump in? Oh, lady, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to, it's just kind of, I don't want to say trigger, but just brought to my mind when we talk about the plight with the youth is that their parents don't care, their parents aren't involved, that sort of thing. I feel like it broad brushes parents, especially a certain group of parents, i.e., Indigenous people, right? So the odds are stacked up against them. So what is DE and I keeping it in place going to make it? How is it going to make it better? Because some of those parents, those teachers and the system, it's part of the beast system. I always say that system is not allowing them sometimes to be able to even know what's really happening with the test, how they're testing. And I'm going to give you one example, and then I'll yield my mic. My son, when he was, each child, I mean, I was always at the school. I was that parent. I want to know who the PTA ladies are. I want to know who the principal is, what's going on, in the daytime. I'd pop in the school sometimes, be, hey, I forgot their lunch or whatever. But I realized that in talking to some of the teachers, sometimes they throw a test out, like a test on the kids. And I'd say, well, that wasn't in their homework assignment. That I didn't see that coming up. Oh, it's just something from the state. And, it's just, we want to see where they are. Well, I want to know where they are too. It's my child. I had them for 9 months, right? I birthed them. So I want to know what you know. And so I would tell them, hey, when there's something that's coming up, I want to make sure that they got better rest, went maybe to sleep a little earlier, maybe a better breakfast, not too heavy, so they won't be sleepy I want to know too. And so what I started realizing also with how they disseminate money is also based upon, and this is not just a color thing, but it does play into it because we have a higher rate of young Black children, especially males, that are autistic. And that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But that ties into how the educational system denotes what funding goes into these schools for special needs, etc. And believe it or not, that's a dotted line to DE&I. So some parents are really proactive, but they don't really know how to navigate through this system that's not set up and designed for their children because it is a prison to pipeline issue. DE&I is not going to turn around and magically make it work. But being that it's now being under scrutiny, we need to take advantage of where it is right now, what we're going to do about it to make it better for our young people. And I'm getting that red bar, so I'm going to go ahead and yield my mic.
A couple of things that I want to offer, and then I want to pass the mic because I honor the new voices, and Uella just joined us on stage. Peace to the people that are in the room. Tanisha, welcome. If you want to come up and join this conversation, you're welcome to. I see Sister wants to get up in here. Water's warm. Alex, just holler at me, bro. I don't want to hog the mic. So to Landstronaut, I want to offer your thoughts regarding a diaspora. Is there any practical way and benefit to what you talked about regarding us coming back to the South and dominating by population, what that looks like? Second, to Lady, I am also triggered, even though I also don't want to use that term, regarding special education and Black boys. The issue of Black boys has come up for me very strongly in multiple ways recently, and I do not have it on the Educator's House agenda, but maybe something big is in store. So I just want to let you know that I resonate with that. Okay, there's some new voices, so I want to honor the folks that are here. Uella Scott King, welcome. You've kind of heard us cook, so let's get your first take. Please introduce yourself and tell us how you can contribute. The mic is yours.
Thank you. I actually had a question for Landstrong, but I see she's on the phone.
Yeah, she just dropped out, actually. Just ask it to the stage and maybe somebody will weigh in. Go ahead.
Yes, no worries, no worries. Yeah. Well, no, I just wanted to know more about what she was actually trying to say. I wasn't sure I was getting it clearly. So, was she saying that that she didn't trust the education system in the States, and she was taking her children back to Africa for education? Was that what she was saying?
I could answer that because I've spoken with her in the past on this idea. So the same way that the Asian kids here, they take their kids back to their mother country during the summers. She wants to do that. And in addition, it's more like supplementary education, but to a certain extent, she wants to opt out completely, which I do agree with. And as much as you can do homeschooling, or basically, go to some type of African studies school, but those are very hard to find. And to that point, you may need to consolidate, our efforts in the South where we could make those types of schools. Because again, they have Jewish schools, they have Korean schools where they have an enhanced curriculum that's oriented around their culture in addition to the state requirements. But you got to pay, and then you got to have a community to support that school. So it can be complicated.
And really, over the long term, it's really hard to do. We've seen Oprah try it. We've seen LeBron James try it. Just opening up a school is a little bit more complicated. And so what I appreciate about the movement that's happening now is that the homeschool movement gives a broader definition to what school could mean. So a parent who has the access and opportunity, trigger alert, the privilege to do stuff like that every summer, could create the very people that we need for the next generation. So thank you for that ad. Lady, do you want to, I see Sister, if you don't mind.
I'm close.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate it. I'll loop back around because I know you want to add to that. But I want to honor Sister Santos. So what I'll do, Sister, if you want to yield to Lady and let her respond, or
I'll yield to her.
Lady, the mic is yours.
Oh, that's so sweet. I tend to be long-winded, so I'll be real quick. When you said about
Take your time.
Thank you, sis. When you mentioned about homeschooling, let me just say this. I'm just going to put this out, and I believe this is something that's prophetic. I believe that the children that are in public schools today, I do believe that there are going to be a lot of parents that are going to be at a crossroads in the future to decide whether or not they want to keep them in these schools, or whether or not they want to pull them out and have either private schooling or back to homeschooling. And so when you talked about seeing a lot of the positive things, I attended a church of 10,000 members. And they had a huge homeschooling community where they would utilize the church for the curriculum, and the parents would come together and use that as a hub.
Yep.
And it worked out beautifully.
Yep.
But they were also telling me my children weren't homeschooled. They weren't privileged to do that. But except for the last two, I did it for their first 3 years, 4 years of their life. But anyway, I think that what happened is that they were telling me about the government really trying to scrutinize homeschoolers and trying to really come harder down on them in terms of looking at what their test results were, et cetera. But they were actually faring well and faring better than those that were in public school. So I think we'll have to look closely at our laws and our legal system as we move closer to that, because if there's a mass exodus to do that, I'm sure there are going to be some roadblocks along the way. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you for adding that. Sister, I'm going to come to you in a moment, but give me an opportunity to move the agenda forward. So what I want to do is give quick greetings and then cook. So Omar, Tahira, others, Tanisha, I don't even know how to say your name, old boy. Yeah, it's Q. Holler at you if you want to jump into the conversation. I'm going to do a little brief segue. We've been marching across history in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the point that we are at now is Regents versus the University of, versus Bakke. Bakke was this white boy, right? And he was mediocre at best. To coin what's old boy's name? The Godfather, mediocre at best. And he got mad because the
Samuel
says, shout out to Kevin. The university reserved, shout out to affirmative action, 16 slots for deserving African Americans. And he did not get his. Now, I'm sure you guys know how the story goes, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But there was this big case, went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court did not support what the Regents University was doing by affirmative action vis-a-vis quotas. So that's how that gets into the history books. But they did say that it could be a factor. So then universities used it as a factor, among other things. And that's how we start to kind of transition from language of affirmative action into like diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it became one of several factors that could be used to set aside scholarships and certain, non-quota, air quotes, if you're watching me on YouTube, non-quota like preferences. So that became this movement. Later, we're going to talk about how it became professionalized and how it started to earn the ire of more conservative Republicans. But I'm going to save that for later. Let me offer the mic to Sister. You've been so patient. Thank you very much. Please introduce yourself. Tell us what you think about the topic or what you've heard so far. The mic is yours.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm Sister Santos. Basically, how I look at it is one of the biggest downfalls for the Black community. It seemed like our greatest breakthrough, but it was used against us as a downfall for most, and it only advantaged a few, was integration. All these efforts, diversity, equity, inclusion, all that stuff, that was meant to continue to echo the civil rights movement, in inclusivity, integration, because obviously, this was not happening, even though by law it was supposed to have been. Extra efforts had to be taken in order to ensure that Black people were included.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's never really been a desire to include Black people. The only desire is to disenfranchise Black people further and to break up. One of the ways in which they did that is by breaking up our community. And I feel the biggest hit to our community was integration. It took the talented 10th and it moved them into corporate white spaces and academia, and deprived, what would be Black community from those gifted and talented people, and basically passing those gifts on to the next generation. You have people, very well studied and qualified individuals. I'm trying to think of one, but his face comes to mind, but it's Cornel West, teaching at these Ivy League, predominantly white universities.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had during integration or during segregation, someone like that would be teaching young Black people. So, things like that. We've moved their industries forward. We've moved their education system forward. We've improved general society in every facet.
Yeah.
Economically, we are spending, our buying power and things like that. Entertainment, you name it.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's left the Black community deprived, and it's left the Black community in shambles, very segmented. So I don't think the EI efforts were ever that effective. I think they only benefited a few. And that's not to say that we should just, be okay with them getting rid of those and undoing those, but I don't think that was ever the goal. The goal was not to enrich and further establish Black people. The goal was to disenfranchise us, take our best and our brightest minds, and to enrich themselves. So I feel like that's what I kind of use as a foundation. So none of this is really, I'm not letting this emotionally disrupt me, because it can feel like an attack.
Right.
It is. But my expectations aren't that high for white society.
I'm going to jump in here and add a layer to it. And then I'm going to holler at Ty Dolla $ign. I think he's on the phone, but my PTR be tripping sometimes. So to add to that, notice the parallel. If we go back to Civil War, and what I came to find out from our previous one, if you want to hear the whole story, go back to one of our previous episodes. All this stuff is being live streamed on YouTube. So go to the YouTube. You'll see I've been doing this multi-part series on DEI. Anyway, there was something called Bloody Missouri. I don't remember the name because I just learned about it live with the guy. But apparently the story that he told was the Underground Railroad wasn't about helping regular Joe Black person, but the Underground Railroad was about escaping the agricultural and engineer brilliance from the plantations. And that's what really started to, and again, this is the lore as I heard it, cripple what was going on in the South, because them white boys didn't know what they was doing. They built it on Black brilliance, right? So as they're moving from the South, shout out to Harriet Tubman. Rumor has that she was mostly saving her cousins, but that's how we do, right? But there was a whole railroad of moving out really Black brilliance. My point to resonate with what you were saying was that it wasn't random, but we've seen that happen there as well. Okay. Thank you for letting me share that, and I will move the mic along. So Ty Dolla $ign, holler at you, bro. Welcome. Introduce yourself. If you're ready to speak now, or if you want to speak later, I could keep cooking and move our thing forward a bit. What you think, Ty?
Well, I'm seeing that he's on the phone.
Okay, thank you. Did you jump in? Yeah, I think you did, right? I got you covered.
Yeah. So actually, as I got the mic, so it seems since the time I've been in this room, I think there's at least 3 people have spoken against integration. Obviously, I'm from across the pond, so I'm not speaking with knowledge from America. But it seems like the people on your stage are actually against integration. What's your take on this, Hassan?
Don't include everybody.
All right, well, let's open it up. I see somebody else wants to come on stage, but you came. I hope you're a patient person, because we about to cook. You will ask an important question. I think when it comes to, and it's a great question, I'm going to open it up so you guys start formulating your thoughts on this. The issue of integration is really, for me, the great, how would I call it? Discrepancy in philosophy, right? If we are part of this critical theory, then integration is, to coin a phrase, integrated with that, versus this more classical theory, which resonates with like meritocracy and what you hear coming out of the Republican Party, right? So these are really 2 deep philosophies. For me, the other X factor, and I'll open up the stage to anybody who wants to take it, is this issue of corporate interest and virtue signaling as a way to pull capital dollars out. I know that's a little bit deep, but I just want to signal to where the future of the conversation may go. All right, let me close my mic. I see King is in, but will let the stage speak to it first. Anybody want to jump in on Uella's question? Is integration, are we an anti-immigration consensus on the stage?
No, I'm not against integration. I do believe that we need to root out, the predominant forms of discrimination, which are now anti-Black.
Right. Let me not let you cook too long. Let me send the survey, Jason. Let me send the survey around to the others. Anybody else want to weigh in and just give a quick? Are you anti-immigration as a point of departure? Anybody else want to be transparent?
You mean integration? Integration.
Anti-integration. Thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
I'm not anti-integration. No.
I'm anti-integration because unfortunately the history shows it has never worked. We are worse off than we were prior to that. We own less homes. Maybe we're a little more educated on paper, but we don't have the same opportunities from a financial standpoint. We are poorer than pre-integration.
Okay. Sister, I see you jumped in on that. You want to take it right quick?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'll let this speak for themselves, and exactly what Nerd just said. I mean, our community. From a moral stance, of all together, it's not actually been working. That's why you had things like programs like DEI and things like that to enforce it, and now those are being undone. So no, I'm not pro integration.
Okay, so it sounds, Uella, like we have a pretty diverse stage here. Let me give the mic to Carla. Maybe she and I can walk a little bit in this garden that we've created. Carla, let me pass you the mic. What do you think?
I'm not against integration, but can I back up a little bit, Hassan, and challenge the thought process from maybe just a little different lens?
Yeah, you're right on time. Go ahead.
Okay, so as I'm sitting here and I'm listening and I'm thinking about affirmative action, right? And we've talked about how it was designed to level the playing field, right? We're going to ensure that historically marginalized groups, Black people, women, other minorities have equal access to opportunities. That's what it's about, equal access to opportunities, creating a society, right, that we live in that truly reflects ideals that are fair and equal. But then that definition, it depends on what it is. And so the more I think about it, I think of this concept of the land of freedom and opportunity. But at the core, affirmative action, it's not sounding anymore like just a policy. It sounds more and more, as I think and I listen to the people speaking, it's a reflection of the mindsets and the values that have been embraced in our country. So I don't care whether we're integrated or we're segregated. If mindsets and values don't come into alignment, then I don't think we will ever have the opportunity to come to the table and work together collaboratively, because what we're dealing with is a fear of loss of control and power. That is as if another Black people or any other ethnic minority were to gain something, that they would then be in fact losing something and seeing it instead of as it would be making the whole greater. They see it as individually and separated. So we think of America, land of the free, home of the brave. People are coming from everywhere to get to this country so that they can have an opportunity for a better life. But the very people who built the country are being emasculated and devalued because the people that have been in power are afraid of losing power and control. And so I think maybe how we've been going about it has not been really dealing with that concept, as we've just been fighting. If you do it, I have to do it. And it didn't matter. So we put in all of these initiatives that you must hire so many ethnic minorities. You must have this, you must have that. And and I'm not saying all inclusive, for the white people who truly believe in mankind, they have no issue. But those who are still fighting fear and control, you can put in all the policies and procedures you want. It is not changing the mindset and what is operating in the hearts and minds of people. I'll land.
I'm a pick. I don't land. Nope. Co-pilot taking over. I'm gonna push back, my dear sister. I agree. Access is a better metric, so we can use that as common ground. But unfortunately, it ain't gonna work because we cannot agree. And when I talk about these two deep philosophies, I have something that I'm gonna play. I did not plan on this, but it just so happened that I have it queued up, and so I offer this as a point of departure for the listening audience. Those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. But for the listening audience, this is the one and only Jordan Peterson versus 20 atheists. And there's been a viral component where a young fella kind of got under his skin, we'll say. But this segment I thought was very different, just to highlight the idea that there is no middle ground between this group that says, what is objectively true is separate from morality, and this other group that says things are systems and the system has a problem. I may be going too deep for you guys, but let me just play this and then I will pass the mic around. Enjoy this. It's a young brother going to challenge this idea. I'm going to stop right there. The members of his tribe are taking care of him. This is the deep philosophy that I find being separate, right? Whether or not we have a moral obligation, and within that, science takes place, these ideas of objective truth, right? So for me, I don't see how the two can meet, even though they're looking at the same problem. Because yes, we both want diversity, but one group says we need to do something about it, and the other group says long walk to freedom. We've been doing something about it, and where we are now is way better than where we were, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So, let's just keep pushing forward. Nina Simone says, "Go slow, go slow." Woo! Y'all letting me cook. I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me take moderator privilege. King. I'm going to call you King Cole. Correct me if I'm wrong. You haven't introduced yourself or giving greeting to the room. Welcome. The mic is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, just real quickly, the reasons that I am pro integration are twofold. There are many reasons, but primarily, the first reason is that we're American citizens.
Okay.
We're protected by the Constitution,
Agreed.
and we are supposed to be guaranteed the same rights and protections as any other individual in the country. We are supposed to have equal protection under the law. We are supposed to have equal access
I agree.
in the pursuit of happiness under the law. We're no longer slaves, we're full citizens.
Mhm.
And if this is true, then it's true. If it's not, then it's not. And we need to force those in power to be clear about the truth around that. Are we willing to be honest about the reality of exclusion? Because a lot of times they want to point to exclusion or racism as a personal dislike or like for somebody. They don't like to recognize the manifestations of racism, which have been studied and quantified through data. But why not be through for integration? We're American citizen. we fought for this country. Our forefathers fought for this country.
That's
My
a fact.
grandfather fought in the Korean War. I don't know how, far back your people go in this country, but I mean, goddamn, there are new European immigrants who have been here 1 generation, 2 generations, that can call themselves with their chests out, they whole chests,
Right.
patriots, and take advantage of the American identity. If they can, I should be able to as well.
You know who you know who does that? The new immigrant Asian community. They'd be like, "Oh, it's great here. I love it here. I can start a
Right.
business. Hey, it's awesome." Not realizing that that's built on that privilege is built on the blood of our people. Like you, I'm gonna say this, and I'll yield right back. But like you, my people go deep. My people were in World War II as well, so he went through that very thing. But I'm sorry, I'm so rude. Bad moderator. Do you want to finish and land your plane?
Yeah, no, you're good. But yeah, it's not just Asian immigrants, but I mean, I'm talking about Europeans specifically because they get to come here and meld into the white, quote unquote, white identity, even though they may be Ukrainian, they may be Russian, they may be somewhere from Eastern Europe. And they just get to be white, and it doesn't matter um, how many generations they've been in this country. They're almost more American and are able to take advantage of the benefits of American citizenship than people who have been here for generations, like us, right? So I think we should stand on that, and I think that we should take up space in every corner of this society like any other American citizen. But secondly, I think that, there's this notion about economics, pre and post segregation. And I think that there are several fallacies that people ignore when discussing the economics, because the entire economic system changed since the 50s and the 60s. The economy right now is global, and local inter-community small business, and you have one employee, like that is not economic stability. That is not business. We have a very limited notion of what wealth is, of what business is, and what is possible. And I think that we this is the case because for the most part, we have been segregated, and we do not know what types of move people out here are making in the world. And because we don't know what's at stake and what exists, we don't know what to go for. I mean, there are people that are participating for sure. But I think that widely, when I hear people talk about, segregation in a very romanticized way, and then they talk about business and Black business in particular, the math doesn't math, not for a 21st century economics. It just doesn't.
I'll offer a few things that come up for me. Number one, what you just described for me, I see great opportunity because some of the leaders in Africa not playing. This is a great opportunity for us to do some real work. To that point that I won't say criticize, but pointed out. The other thing that I'll point out is what Carla mentioned earlier. It may not look like a actual new infrastructure, a nation within a nation. But when it comes to shifting the mindset, there's a mindset around other communities where they are intentional about moving their dollars in certain ways, about the professions that they go into, etc. There's a coordination that's bigger than one individual family's decision-making process that's being considered. That is something that I might suggest we're not really good at yet. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I would recommend that you look into the works of Dr. Jared Ball. He has a book out called The Myth of Black Buying Power.
Yeah.
And he goes into the narrative that a lot of us have been sold, that other communities, of course, right? Because like I said, we're segregated. So we've been told that other communities do this and other communities do that. And this is how they do economics, and this is how they turn over their dollar.
Right.
And that a lot of these things are greatly overstated
Right.
or flat out lies. And so the myth of Black buying powers, and again, the truth will be somewhere in the middle,
Fair.
but it's good perspective to have, because I think that a lot of times we end up selling ourselves short, beating ourselves up, and then advocating for our regression instead of our progression, because we hear these things and we don't think about it critically at all. And then the next thing you know, again, we're advocating for our own enslavement, or um, our own limits to participate in the market, or move around in the country that we live in.
So, where are we now? I say we, but I mean we as a black. I'm joining with you in being black, although obviously I'm not in America. So, where is it now? Has there been progress? Has DEI delivered progress? This is a genuine question.
Mm-hmm.
Has it delivered progress?
Let me.
Because so the people who were against integration, I think have largely left the stage. So what are they trying to say? Are they saying that integration has actually been destructive for Black people? What is the evidence for what they're saying, and what
I'll
you
offer?
guys are saying?
Yeah, thank you for that, and I really appreciate you, Uella. I'll offer, and then King, if you want to jump in. So, what about the promise of DEI? I want to answer, and maybe King will answer, but what I want to do is to offer the segue. So, there is a certain area of criticism where we went from affirmative action and the quotas and the debates around it. Right, there was a genuine interest during that time of saying, let's figure this thing out, right? There was a segment of white people, they've been around for a long time, from abolitionist time, like, hey, we fucking up. How can we make this right? Right? Shout out to them. So there was a sentiment, as I mentioned, with the rise of Rosa Parks and the death of the poor boy, Emmett Till, and what was going on with the military man. Like, there was a rising sentiment of like, well, come on, moral compass. I think you brought this up, Uella. Moral compass, like, we're fucking up here, right? So there was that sentiment, but then has DEI made progress? In the midst of that, we saw a corporatizing and a professionalizing of it. So that's when we see the rise of universities with the what is now criticized as ethnic studies or gender studies as an actual major. They say that's BS. That's all DEI jibber jabber. It creates professionals that then move into the bureaucratic class. And now you have an office in some corporation about checking DEI calculations and whether or not it even should exist in the first place, but now it's been professionalized. So along the journey, you see this corporate piece, and then I'm going to add another little bit of audio into this. I hope you heard the first one, which talks about how corporates have really done a lot of visual optics. So listen to this, and then King, I'll pass it to you to try to answer the question about progress in DEI. All right, check this out. Charlemagne the God, shout out. Bad joke. It's too painful. I can't even finish the clip. Talk about cringe. So the corporatizing and the virtue
I
signaling.
want to say something. So as I was listening to it, are you going to finish playing it, Hassan?
No, I can't. I can't anymore. Go ahead, Carla. Go ahead. I can't do it. Go ahead. You got it.
So I think one of the key things that you mentioned before, it's the science versus the morality issue, right? So when we think of DEI from the scientific perspective, if you can even get your head wrapped around that, right? There is the data, there is the numbers, there's the empirical process by which they attempt to do what they think everyone wants, which is level the playing field. So they can measure that. They can put the quotas in place. They can determine if they hit that. That's the piece that they know how to do. The reason it is faulting is because the morality piece has not come up alongside it and girded it up. Because if in their heart of hearts and then in their minds they don't believe in it, it is hard to stand in something that is not your truth. So I think that where we start to see the backlash is because of the undermining of the belief processes that show I don't morally think that this is right, because I am being affected. I am losing my power. I am losing my position. I think that the two can overlap and come together where science shows what the problem is. Like, what are the groups facing? And then the morality comes alongside it to say, from a moral perspective, what can be done such that we are still greater as a whole, right? That society is greater, but people are living in pockets and doing what is going to line their pockets money-wise, line their comfort level, position them for power, irregardless of the people that it is hurting. And because we don't come with the economic influence and power, we don't play in those arenas that's affecting the moral change. I'll land.
Well, you be landing, boy. You must be a vet in the space, because you be landing that plane. You're right. The question of, is it right? I want to keep the mic moving. So I just want to give a shout out right quick to Omar. He asked a question which I think is worthy for me to put on the stage, and then I'll pass it to Jason, either to respond to the question or give people space to consider the question. Omar said, how does the future of AI impact DEI? How do we apply fairness going forward? So there's so much there, bro. It's like a whole room in and of itself. So we'll see if it opens up anything for the stage. But I've got plenty to say about it. Just stay tuned. All right, Jason, the mic is yours.
Yeah, I don't really know how to affect the change. I agree. That's Carla pinpointed the problem. I just don't know the solution. I don't think separating the, so-called races is the solution. And now we're doing so much on the internet, so much with AI. Anybody that wants to, think a solution is to, kind of separate the races and somehow, that's going to yield to better results is, pretty foolish. Like, you can't even tell what company. Like, if you just went to my website, I could put a white picture on it and you wouldn't know that a black man owns it, right? So the thing is that in this day and age, you can't really do it like that. So I think that it's a very complex problem because, like, simple situation, right? I sold my house, so invested in Academy, and I ended up homeless after 3 years because nobody would invest in it. And I hear people talking about, and if it's people don't agree with my values, I heard, there were some other people that started schools. I don't know the finances of how it works for. I did see that. I don't know about, the results of Oprah's school, but I do know I do know in South Africa, so a girl got raped there, which was very unfortunate. So you have to, you can't just put your name on
multiple.
Multiple.
Oh, wow, multiple.
For the record.
Worse than I thought. So I did better than that because nobody can get raped at my school. Okay, it's virtual, but then that has other problems because a lot of people don't want to go to it because everything's open.
Right.
So I ended up in a shelter. So I don't know. Somebody tell the solution so I don't end up in a shelter again. I'm done speaking.
Yeah. I appreciate that share. I want to share a bit of a story. There is a character that I don't think I could responsibly leave this conference without bringing up, which is Clarence Thomas. For the good of the group, I sent out invites. You're welcome to come up. We're at 24 minutes after the hour. We've got about 30 minutes till we land our conference today. So I am on my march to just signal what's coming ahead. We are going to lay down the question of the backlash of DEI, and we're going to move into what DEI looks like today. So expect clips from, elementary school kids that talk about the books that are in their library, all the way to people coming to local school board meetings to testify. So it's going to be really interesting when we get into the issue of gender and DEI. I have someone I'm trying to track down to be a special guest, so stay tuned to what's coming next. As I move past the professionalizing, I just want to share a quick story, and then we can cook as we land our plane. Clarence Thomas. Oh, Clarence. He's like a Black superhero. He's like the Negro Green Mile to the story of affirmative action and DEI, because he comes from some area deep in the Geechee Island area of Georgia. And he was from, as Clubhouse would love to sing his praises, single parent household, had it rough with his mom. She got married multiple times. It was not a good fit for him and the other stepdads. He ended up moving to Grandpa's house. Grandpa was a devout Catholic, so he ended up moving into the Catholic school. Shout out to the Jesuits, early integrators, as we cook on integration, Uella. But it was rough, being the token Negro and a 2,000 student, mostly white capacity. And he's like one of 30 kids, so he got it rough. He's Black, self-proclaimed ugly, so he really tried to overperform. Then comes the Black Power movement, and he really got self-righteous, but ended up getting into Yale because of affirmative action. So then he had to re-navigate that white territory and messed around and started to have a disdain, saying that even though he was qualified, the stain of him being a product of affirmative action, a product of a quota, made his qualifications seem undervalued. And so his thought was, I think we should get rid of it. And so his big campaign, fast forward all the way until now, he's one of the biggest staunch, sitting on the Supreme Court. Shout out to Ronald Reagan. Shout out to Anita Hill. say her name, and more. So now he is a major decision maker when it comes to the dismantling of DEI and the cooling off of that kind of language, to the degree that they're erasing even the words in their policy statements. And I could get into Harvard University and more, but I just wanted to add that little piece as we move into our final segment. DEI, has anyone on the stage had an actual experience with diversity, equity, and inclusion, like at a school board meeting or at your workplace, or some sort of a promissory statement, a pledge quote that you might have had to say in a interview? I don't know, whatever may come up. I'll pass it to King Cole next, and then maybe other people could weigh in. King Cole, mic is yours.
Yeah, so I worked on some DEI initiatives with the firm I work for still currently. I got in and got out because I recognize I'm very pessimistic about the motivations of corporate entities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very pessimistic about overall the majority's willingness for any type of racial justice. So it was an educational experience that I'm glad I had, because it really, DEI really wasn't even just about race, right? What I learned during that time is that during the early 2000s, before George Floyd or the pandemic or any of these things happened, before quiet quitting, before woke.
Yep, I'm with you. Cook.
Corporations were losing billions of dollars in litigation, discrimination litigation, gender discrimination from women, racial discrimination cases, gay and lesbian discrimination, the Americans with Disabilities Act. discrimination, right? Like their offices not being accessible for people with disabilities. All of these things are covered and kind of addressed in a DEI, under a DEI framework.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Because when you go to work, you're working with all of these different groups. You're working with women, you're working with people with disabilities, wheelchair bound, et cetera, et cetera. You might be working with veterans, you might be working with parents, you might be working with Black folks, you know, people that you didn't grow up with, people that you may not have interacted with until you got to college, because we're mostly segregated, right? So, you know, there became this corporate citizenship movement where corporations were, you know, because they were trying to garner favor with the public, because they didn't want the public to start getting on politicians about taxing their asses. They said, we need to start getting involved in some of the social issues that the public cares about, like environmentalism and just making the workplace a better place for everybody, and making sure that our company was being mindful about not being like racist, right? Because again, every year, front page news or headlines, some corporation is, you know, $1 million class action suit because they've been found, you know, liable for racist or gender discrimination, right? And so what DEI provided was a way for it's not it's not like this percentage, and you need to do this, right? It's a way, it's a bunch of metrics that you use to determine what in my organization, what do I look like and why do I look like this, right?
Yeah.
Where am I? Where am I? Am I okay? Am I terrible? And how can I improve? Not next year, I'm like a totally different company as it relates to an identity mix, but am I growing a percentage or two year to year? Am I recruiting in different areas?
Right.
Am I making sure that I'm talking to people that are differently abled? That I'm talking to people or going to veterans groups and recruiting? Am I reaching talent pools that are diverse, right? And so that was the initiative to expand the talent pipeline and to make sure that the recruitment process was inclusive, and that once these different people, once these different identities came together, that people who may not have had any type of interaction with, you know, these different people were culturally competent enough to work be in a work environment situation where, again, previously this was a touchy situation, right? Because we've had all these issues with litigation and payouts and this and that and the third.
I wanted to play
so
this.
that's what it was. It was changed into the affirmative action busing argument when it was not that, and that was never the purpose.
Let me jump in. So the busing thing is a whole nother. I wish King Sick was here. You'll have to go back to see our previous DEI discussion. It came from King Sick. I think it's entitled "The Colored History of DEI," where I go all the way back to 1865. He does a great segment in there, which responds to what you were talking about. I want to play a clip, but I also want to acknowledge Dr. Mitch has made it onto the stage. So Dr. Mitch, and then I saw Carla right after that. So let the room cook, and I'll save my clip. If it's relevant, I'll play it later. Dr. Mitch, do you mind yielding to Carla as a moderator, or are you pressed to respond to what you've heard?
I just wanted to do 1 minute if I could, and just to say that, you know, obviously diversity is powerful, right? I mean, that's how I build companies, because people from different backgrounds add strength.
Yep.
But you know, and I think the just a couple of things is going to be a little jumbled, but I think, you know, when I was a kid, the Democratic Party drew its strength from the fact that there was a lot of marginalization of people, tremendous amount, and a lot of it's, but I'd like to say that it's geographic to a certain degree.
Okay.
I mean, as educators, we don't really care. Like, the more the merrier, right? If I fill up a room with 500 students, I don't care what. I'm happy if they come from different backgrounds. It adds to the discussion, you know. But like anything else, when these ideas are kind of taken over and taken to extremes, it creates issues for everyone. And people who, you know, put themselves in classes, you know, just to get ahead, they hurt everyone else that really is marginalized. And there's a lot of that going on right now. I've got friends that are college presidents, and every time they don't hire someone, they said it's because of the shoes I was wearing, or I was pregnant, or you didn't like my hair.
Yeah.
You know, there's victim leveraging going on,
and
which is
cancel
really
culture
sickening.
going along with it. Continue.
Yeah, but it's sickening, because people that are really marginalized, they're the ones that are going to suffer, because what happens is everyone just turns the nozzle off, and everyone who's been marginalized gets no voice. That's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate that. I would cook, but
Can
I
I
want to
ask a question?
let me yield to Carla. She's been gracious as a moderator to allow the new guest to speak, and then I'll jump right back into what you guys are talking about.
I just wanted to thank you, Hassan. And thank you, Dr. Mitch, for that perspective. I was thinking about the question that you asked, and have you ever lived through it or experienced it? And I've lived through it, and I've also had to represent the policies of my organization.
Sure.
And I think about, I'm still on this whole science versus morality, because I think about a time where compliance was key, right? The chart went up at the end of every quarter. You know, here are our targets, and here's how we're doing against targets. And it was very much a kind of a rote. It was a task. It was an objective. It was something you're going to do. How do we drive down costs? How do we hit our diversity targets? And then I watched it move into a space of where they were trying to promote the inclusion. And so that looked like trying to make people comfortable. And there were groups where you now had a mentor. And I benefited from having mentors. But where I really benefited was from mentors who believed in me, the person, irregardless of my gender or irregardless of the color of my skin. Now, there were some who believed in me because it lined their pockets, because they were getting bonuses from hitting targets.
Right.
But then there were some who believed in me because that is what was in them.
Yep.
And you can kind of tell the difference. And so I've experienced it from both sides. And I'm more and more standing 10 toes down on the scientific, and the morality part will have to marry for this thing to really mean something long term.
Okay. All right. I want to cook, but I want to yield to the conversation that was happening. And as time permits, I want to lean in, because I have a very specific example, which I think can illustrate my view on it. Okay. King, I think you wanted to ask a question to Dr. Mitch. Let me let you guys cook, and then we'll jump in after you.
Yeah, Dr. Minch, I just wanted to ask you, in your opinion, how are these things like marginalization, how are they verified? Like, how are they measured? How do you know that when a person says that they've been marginalized, what what mechanisms are available for people to validate those claims?
I don't think there are good mechanisms. That's part of the problem, right? I mean, that's the issue. Like, I know how we do it in the legal system. You know, somebody becomes a class, right? And they have, go ahead. Oh, you came off mic.
So there's no such thing as patterns or studies that, so for instance, there are studies done that where the conclusions are based on having a black sounding name, a person's resume is less likely to be seen, to be even looked at, right? That is
Yep.
a study that was, like, so, or that as it relates to a pregnant woman, because discrimination against pregnant women is a real thing. The EEOC, they actually send in people to s- to capture these responses, to capture the reactions and the responses that people get. Like, so when this happens to people in real time and people are able to capture those metrics, why isn't that validation enough for you?
No, it's a perfect question, right? And the answer is yes, there are statistics, but it's a top-down problem. It's not a bottom-up problem. You know, it's you have to have people, you know, that are making policy, that are interested in what you have to say, and that has a lot to do with what their interests are. Not so, but yeah, certainly there are statistics, and I think this if you know, that's, there's no question. But I think there's more of like a fundamental missing, you know, rational motivation for people to correct some of this stuff. And I think when we do, I think
What do you mean a rational motivation to correct it?
well, like if the people in this room were doing it, we would do it much differently, wouldn't we? Than, let's say, somebody who's a bureaucrat in Washington who, you know, is trying to get a lobbying job.
Well, I mean, the person in Washington, that's their area of expertise, right? Why would we? What I mean,
Checking.
I'm a software engineer. What do I know about um, human resources and like really how organizations work and reasonable standards for hiring and ensuring equity and hiring? Like, what do I
Yeah,
know about
because
that?
it's not that you don't know about it or don't know about it, it's that you're not going to be co-opted, that
But
you're going to listen to the data.
it's not my area of expertise. Like, you're a lawyer. I trust that because that's your right, you're in the legal field. I trust that when you give me opinion, your legal advice, that it's that I can, that it's going to be
Oh
trustworthy,
boy.
even
Yeah.
if I get a second opinion, because that's your area of expertise. I think that we're suffering right now because there's just a lack of respect for expertise, because we just don't like we don't like what people have to say, more so that they're not qualified to say it.
Yeah, I wish it was like that. And when you talk about the legal case, I'm actually not an attorney. I'm a medical expert. I do forensic work, but I'm in the legal, you know, I represent people, uh, among other things that I do. But again, fundamentally, from the top down, I just don't see it. The reason that we're having issues is because people are not respecting the data. A lot of them are co-opted for financial reasons. If I can get
Let me jump in. I think this is a good time for Carla and I to transition. So I hope that you guys get as much value out of me and Carla cooking as you did with them. Hey, Carla girl. Hey, girl. When I think about this issue of science versus morality and the capacity to separate the two, I'll start with this as what I would say is maybe a point of departure from my framing, that a objective reality exists independent of our values, and that we as humans can separate our values from the objective pursuit of science. Um, if that is the case, then science can be considered amoral, and it really doesn't matter what comes up. It just matters that we found this objective truth that we can all sort of agree if we divorce ourselves from our values. That's what I'm calling the classical group. The critical group says, no, sir. What actually is true is that science happens within a moral context. What we pursue as our scientific endeavor is framed by our moral compass. So science is not divorced and objective, but it is a outcome of who we are as a society. And so the critical theory camp says we need to be critical of the systems that produce the science. And so from there, we see these two very camps. You have one side that says access. Listen, there's no such thing as racism. Hey, everybody can apply. Maybe it's just random occurrence that people named Bill are more likely to get the position than people named Bumquisha. Sorry, I have a humorous trigger there. I apologize. Whereas the other side says, no, look at the context. So this is, Carla, I'm going to yield to you when I make this point. My case study. When I was a high school chemistry teacher, when I first started teaching, I was of the objective crew camp. And I said, okay, here is Mendeleev and his periodic table, and he found this cool stuff. And here's Boyle and his law. And here are all these scientists and what they discovered, which now lets us understand high school chemistry, right? It was great. And then at some point along my teaching journey, I transitioned from the idea that I'm teaching science to I'm teaching these kids. And I started to put the science in context. Do you know when that Enlightenment period took place? It was right in the midst of chattel slavery. So these white boys, if I put it in the other context, right, it happens within a context of society. Here are these white boys with their wigs and their shoes, and they are just profiting from the slave trade. While meanwhile, my ancestors are over in some island somewhere cutting sugar, and on some plantation becoming an agricultural genius, who might abscond through the Underground Railroad to the north, and an intellectual like Frederick Douglass becomes friends with President Lincoln, right? So somewhere along that journey, there is this tension between can I divorce my values because that amorality allows one to justify something like slavery, because objectively there's an advantage, and that objective advantage is better for the common good. So I can divorce my humanity from what I'm doing to get to the objective truth. Okay, that's my case for the science versus morality premise upon which I build. I know that was a lot. I don't expect you to respond, but maybe something came up.
No, as I listen to you, I'm not sure that we're totally saying different things. Because, so for me, certainly not wanting to get into the ring with the scientists. You are the scientist, right? But when I think of it this way, in layman's terms for me, like science is great at explaining how things happen. For example, science can show how plants grow or how the body works. But science can't tell us why we should care about growing the plants or taking care of the plants such that the world is a better place. That's the morality piece of it. But I don't think that they live independent. They can be distinct, but I don't think they are complete until they marry. Does that make sense? That's my thought.
No, it does make sense. I saw King hit up the chat, so I wanted to yield to you. King Cole, what are your thoughts?
I just, I think this is a good time to just remind us that this is why a lot of times protections for minorities have to be codified in law, because you can't legislate
The heart.
morality.
That's it.
You can't expect morality from people. They just don't do it. A lot of times it requires the law to protect people's rights, because it just doesn't. I mean, like, if we have to wait for people to get a conscience about it, we wouldn't be here. Like, we would still be. Do you understand what I'm
And I
saying? Like,
understand what you're saying. We've seen it time and time again. I got you. Keep cooking, and then we'll start to land the plane. Go ahead. I'll let you finish first.
Yeah,
Can
I'll
I say
yield
one
to
thing to you,
Carla.
King? Yeah, I want to keep the conversation going with you because you said something. I totally agree with you that we must have the legislature in place to protect the rights because our moral compass is weak. I think that morally, if our moral compass was stronger, we would have a place by which we could begin to move things forward. And I think as long as we have to rely on law by itself, we will always continue to deal with this problem.
Wow. Look at us solving the problems of the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I have been holding space here in the Educator's House among my friends and fellow colleagues, dealing with this issue of DEI. I might have a personal trigger because I've been doing this. I have been doing this for a while. I don't know why I'm so inspired, but it allows me to unpack some of the real issues that I see going on in education. I want to give you a heads up. If you've made it this far in the conversation, I would like you to know that I'm a man on a mission. This is Educator's House, and I want to bring these kinds of conversations to a much bigger audience, which is why I've started streaming these things that I've been doing for years over to YouTube to try to stimulate conversation and make it more accessible for us to really talk about these important issues. With that being said, what's coming up next in 2 weeks' time is screen time and child development. So I have a few folks who are in my circle that can speak specifically to issues of child development and screen time. I see Stefan Youngblood is in here. So I'll be calling you my brother. I'll be calling you soon as we start to weigh in on that issue. So just look forward to the fact that we're not just a DEI channel, but we are talking about the broad issues in education. I have plenty planned, but I like to do a slow walk and make it really relevant. So if that's something that you're into, we have a morning show called Homeroom, forgive the pun. So you can see me on Monday live streaming at 4 a.m. Pacific, 7 a.m. Eastern. It's a great morning show, so you can use it in the background while you get ready to go to work or whatever. I would appreciate your views and your support as I try to grow my channel and my impact regarding these kinds of topics. Okay, so with that said, what I'd like to do for my fellow stage mates is I'm first going to give some instruction and then hopefully yield to the stage. I'm at the segment now called Remarkable. I'm still working on the fine tuning. What of this conversation has been worthy of remark? So if you could think about a one sentence or one phrase that can kind of summarize or would be shareable, that could really help us put it into a notion because I'm on a growth. So make that remark to someone. Before I do that, I've got a few new voices. So if you guys could be brief, because as you guys know, I like to start on time. I like to end on time. I'm going to go to Miss Clark. Brief introduction, your thoughts, whatever came up, then over to Stefan Youngblood, and then we will do our one sentence remarks to those who've been sharing the space. Thank you for all that. Miss Clark, mic is yours.
I do believe, and forgive me, I believe that it was Carla who said it, talked about the morality piece when it comes to DEI. It's one of those things where I kind of teeter on because it's like, for me, listening to DEI and the conversation surrounding DEI, I find it funny that we have been made the face of DEI as Black people, but we are not the biggest benefactors of it. But it is something that is needed because of where we live in the track record and the history of our country. Like, we have stories that come out almost every other week showing how companies refuse to, operate in more of a marital based thing where you hire the most qualified individuals, but people want to pretend as if like things like this aren't happening. So I do like the bit about, how realistically, morally, we can't rely on people to do the right thing or even adhere to their words or the things that we typically hear people spout about online. Unfortunately, there does have to be legislative law put in place to ensure that people are actually held to their word of hiring, quote unquote, the best person for the job. And some people don't like to acknowledge that the best person for the job may not look like them.
I want to pass it directly to Stefan Youngblood, and then I'll respond to both of you just in the interest of time. Hey, Stefan, welcome to the space, man. Greetings, please take the mic.
Greetings. Hey, thanks so much. Great. Yeah, I love this kind of room. I just wanted to say, because all of it makes my head just want to absorb more. Just got off the phone with my 91-year-old mom, and she loves to learn things. And she's learning whether it's technology, the human side, she's a Catholic and stuff. So she believes, and she's just engulfing information. But what I do want to say is at our National Black AI Literacy Week, entire week, I want you to know that Dr. Carmen Banks is going to be there. She does stuff with biogenetics and friends that are working with human genomes and CRISPR and that kind of stuff. It's fascinating to listen to. She has a group called Melanin Science, and she helps young Black girls get interested in science and helps to get them funding and aid. She's on amazing stuff. Her name is Dr. Carmen Banks. And I just love the mixture of science, and we got to have that in all of our conversations. Thanks so much. That's it.
Tell us a few more details. What is the actual dates of the conference? And if you don't mind, could you drop the link in case people wanted to follow up?
Yep, I'll do that. Hey, yo, we're just doing this because we need to know about stuff as it affects us. I heard you mention reading and literacy, and we talked about stuff in our history back when they didn't want us to read. I am just passionately saying AI literacy is a thing, and we need to be a part of it. Go and learn coding, STEM, do all of that, but also just know, I don't know how to code, and I just did a website that's producing income in an hour. So our kids need to know that there's all of us need to know that there's this thing called AI, and we need to be a part of it. June 9th through June 13th, classes start in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, 2 in the evening. And just so many entrepreneurs, CEOs, doctors, lawyers, the whole thing. We have people from every different walks that are in there. And I was going to say it's all free. It was free. It's just $10, y'all. You get an entire week like all of this for $10. Oh, easy to find. Black AI Literacy. That's it. .com. BlackAILiteracy.com. And I will put it down there. And the new broader site that this is Black owned, are opening is the National AI Literacy Center. And I'll put that down there too. And it's everything. But again, we need to not just own the Black one. We need to own the whole thing. So that's it. Thank you so much.
I just want everybody to know this is not a paid endorsement. Stefan Youngblood is somebody that I personally believe in. I'm happy to hold space for him to talk about what's going on. It's critical that we have these conversations. You're going to see the link. I'm going to try to take that link, Stefan, and copy it over to the YouTube channel as well, so it's there on the record. So thank you guys. Please take what he said seriously and look into it. I will be moderating. Maybe I'm going to invite myself to the party, Stefan. I will be pushing in some of those conferences and maybe moderating some of the discussions. So I look forward to seeing you there. I want to move directly into the remarkable section. So if anything comes up for anybody that we could consider a remark, something worthy of remark that came up for you today, that could be in the form of a statement of gratitude, could be something that you remember, or something that you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to as we extend the conversation. I will start with Dr. Mitch and kind of march my way up. Actually, lady, you're ready. The mic is yours.
Thank you so much. I just want to offer gratitude. I think being grateful and showing gratitude and thankfulness every day is so important, especially as we encourage one another as we ebb and flow through our journeys here on this earth. And so I'm very, very thankful to the Educators Room and everybody that gave input today. I had to bounce out of the room, take care of some business, but I came right back in. And one of the things that I just have on my heart is I'm grateful to hear this conversation. A lot of times I'm in places and spaces and I hear a lot of negativity. I try to stay vibrating very high. I try to stay on a positive note. And I always hear the condescending remarks like, our people aren't doing this. We can't do this. And I said, I want to stop that noise. It's
Right.
like white noise because I tell people maybe you haven't elevated or maybe you haven't asked where your destiny helpers are. Maybe you just haven't gotten a chance to get in those spaces. We are doing things in our diaspora everywhere. You just have to find it. And so when Brother Youngblood just started talking about the AI space, I've been in IT for over 30 years. And so I'm just so happy to hear that we are now having forums where we're actually now wanting to explore what this new thing is. I was, back in the day before they even had PCs, I was installing, systems as technology was growing up around us. So I'm really happy to see that we're in these spaces having these conversations. And one of the other things, real quick, that I wanted to say is that when you were all talking about a morality, it is very moral as human beings, regardless of your race, culture, to do the right thing for the right reasons because we are all connected.
Yeah.
Doing the right thing, for example, was honoring, there was an institute in Harlem called, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it, called the Harlem's Schomburg Center. And they just recently celebrated, this was highlighted in May in Black Enterprise. They just recently celebrated 100 years of Black culture, 100 years of Black culture, despite this anti-DEI backlash. And so what this particular research center does is it celebrates Black culture, of course, but it is looking at preserving the history and sharing that history with many. And so one of the speakers was, we talked about reading is fundamental, LeVar Burton, who many know from Sesame Street, and he was the host of Reading Rainbow. Well, he made a statement, and I'm just going to read this. It says, "Too few Black institutions reach 100 years. So it is a momentous occasion indeed for the Schomburg Center to celebrate this remarkable achievement. To reach the next 100 years, we must redouble our commitment to preserving Black culture at the Schomburg and beyond, and provide a roadmap for future generations looking to protect truth with history." I'll say that last part again. We need to provide a roadmap for future generations looking to protect truth with history, is what the actor said. And so there was another Tony Award winning actress. Her name is Kara Young. She echoed the same thing. She said that this Harlem native, she said that the Schomburg Center was known as home. It's a home for preserving our history, and it's our responsibility. And it's as an act of love. There are I frequented Washington, D.C. for many years, and there are other museums, and the people that put those museums in place, they want to make sure that their cultures are preserved. And so these are things that let me know that morally,
Yeah.
it's the right thing to do.
Thank you for that
I yield
share,
my-
lady. Yeah, I appreciate you.
Mhm.
That was a great ad, and I value it. Let me. I see the stage is starting to shrink, so let me just create the offer again. Anyone have a short remark that they'd like to offer as we land our plane, Dr. Mitch, very quickly?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm very encouraged by the younger generation. I think that happens a lot, but I have kids, and they don't buy false narratives. They kind of know what's real and what isn't. Like, there's nice people, there's good people and bad people, and all different, regardless of what they are. I know Ching is giving me a face there. I mean, we have to. My point is that we just have to continue to support people that need us to support them. That's my goal in life.
Yeah.
I in my practice, I only represent injury victims and families of injury victims because they're at a disadvantage. It's David and Goliath every day. I'm going against very big corporations that have very deep pockets.
Yeah.
that I refuse to participate with. But I mean, the fight's not over. And then when you get, a little bit of a shakeup in the politics, we're talking about the United States. I know Uella's my friend. She's in the UK. It might be different there. But here, we just have to, we just to keep our lights on, because there are new classes of people that are injured, paralyzed, marginalized, for whatever reason. And it's just just need to keep constantly vigilant. But I think the next generation, as they move up, I think they seem to be a little less discriminatory.
Dr. Mish, I'm gonna jump in here. Two things that I want to offer to resonate with. I'm not sure if it was Lady or King Cole, but Nazi was here in the early part of our conference, and she also made a stand for the disabled community, which is part of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's very important that we keep that part in mind, because at some point, if we live long enough, we will be part of the disabled community. Okay, let me go back to short remarks. Anybody want to close out? King Cole, final thoughts, and then I'm sorry, hold on. Uella will go first, and then King Cole, and then I'll have Carla take the last word. Uella?
Thank you for the mic. I am still trying to get my head around DEI in America. I really am. It sounds to me, if I was going to think of something remarkable that I've learned or heard today, I think it's remarkable that the reliance on DEI in America seems to be because you don't have the protective laws, to protect the various classes. I might be wrong in that, but that's what seems to be the problem. And so therefore, when you're relying on the quotas and things like that, that is where you get the backlash. So people get, backlash because they think it's all about, a certain number.
It's unfair. Right.
Am I understanding completely wrong?
No. You identified the tension, and I guess we're trying to figure it out.
If you had protective laws, then you wouldn't need the kind of the way that DEI shows up in your country, and we have it in ours.
No, I agree with you.
In our country in the same way.
The problem is there's the other side of the aisle says we don't need those protective laws. That's the problem, So having the protected laws versus get rid of those laws, meritocracy, old USA. Forget all that bias. Forget all that stuff. Nepotism is just a coincidence. The Old Boys Club and the Ivy League.
Say the laws in the UK would protect individual situations. So if I'm discriminated against because I'm Black or whatever, I can take a case to a court and, and have that right.
But peep the game, because Donald Trump is defunding the Department of Education, which houses the Office of Civil Rights, where cases like that would be heard. I wish I had a button so that I could do some kind of cool sound effect right there. Woo woo woo! So
that's so true.
American politics at its best.
The fight then should be to have the laws needed so that you don't have the quotas that gets the backup of your fellow Americans.
And again, let me just add this layer too. Don't forget Clarence Thomas, in the skin of a Black man himself, who says all this affirmative action stuff is a problem. My own sister is on welfare. These are my summary of his words, and her kids are feeling entitled to the check. My bro put his own sister under the bus, and next thing you know, he's shaking hands with Ronald Reagan. He's sitting on top of the Supreme Court, despite the testimony of Anita Hill and others, and now he's representing so it's a rich story. DI is something worth talking about. Listen, we're 7 minutes after the hour, you guys. This show is over. If we're going to do the after party, we need to start passing out drinks, okay? First round's on me for the after party, but you got to catch me if you can. I'm going to let Carla have the last word, my beloved co-moderator here. Thank you for holding space and paying careful attention. Could you please round out with your own thoughts? What came up for you as we close? What was remarkable for you? I yield to you, Carla.
Thank you. I'm going to be really brief and say what's coming up for me is that we're better together than we are apart. And I just want to take my time to just say a little bit about Hassan, who is never wanting the mic on him, never wanting the spotlight on him.
Thank you, dear.
But he founded Educators House, right? He's an experienced educator with a passion for stepping beyond the status quo. He's embracing innovation. He's pushing boundaries. He's dedicated to creating a meaningful and lasting change in education. As a Christian man who is called to speak truth to power, his vision is to inspire others to break through limitations, drive positive and transformative change, not only in schools, but in our communities and beyond. So I know he's grateful that you're here today. I just wanted to take that moment, Hassan, to give you your flowers in public and ask people, if you see the link at the top, if you're so led to contribute to the cause, I'm sure he would greatly appreciate
I
it,
would.
because your contributions will allow him to continue to bring meaningful programming to the Educators House. And we'll begin to make change together. And I'll land. Thank you.
This unpaid endorsement was paid for by Carla. Thank you, dear. But seriously, I am on a mission and I am on a Kickstarter fund. I know PayPal has certain language called donate, but it is a Kickstarter. I want to do this as a business. I want to bring these high quality conversations. I have investors who need to see certain metrics that not only people make, investments, but that the number of people is also wise enough to for an investor to say, yeah, there's something here. So if you would, if you are a cheerful giver, I would seriously appreciate your support. As this is a young thing, check out the channel for Uella. Go back for a limited time. The diversity, equity, and inclusion deep dive is available. So whenever you're on your commute or whatever, I think if you start from the beginning of my story, you can kind of see how America's has marched through. The next segment that you're going to see, if you want more, see me on Monday morning. I'm going to do a brief recap, and then we're going to start setting up the stage for DEI and gender issues. So transgenderism and all the others. We start to see that DEI is in the same alphabet soup as LBGTQ plus IA, all of that. You start to see DEI plus. It could be belonging, could be accessibility, could be justice. So diversity, equity, inclusion, and all these other things. It's a whole thing, you guys. And so that's why I'm doing the slow walk. I would appreciate your support if you like this kind of deep dive, serious, high credible source where your voice gets centered. Please support. Listen, I have to close the mic. We're way over time, and I don't want to take advantage of your generosity. We're going to close this room down in 5. If there's anybody on the stage that has added value to your experience today, drop them a follow. This is my call to action, dropping your LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn and you're in that space, drop your LinkedIn so we can expand this network. I don't want to be selfish about the community that's come here. We're going to close this room down in 4. We do this for you. If it was up to me and Carla and Uella, we could have done our own room and had a little private conversation about these issues and really broke it down. But we do this for the greater good, to get these kinds of conversations out to the bigger community. So the degree to which you are willing to remark, willing to share the link. The thing I like about YouTube is that it allows an easy share. You guys are on Clubhouse with me. Not everybody wants to onboard the app and all of that, but you can share the YouTube link and they can get the experience. So your support would be great. Closing this room down in 3. This is not about me. This is a we thing. So I encourage diverse views, as you can see, and I was happy to moderate the conversation. Closing it down in 2. I'm here to serve. If you got topic ideas, ways that I can improve, I'm sure I talk too much. Carla was very generous, but I want to push the mic away from me more and more and center the voice of the community. So if you got any ideas, positive or negative feedback, I would appreciate it. And finally, in 1, I'm closing this room down in 1. What that means is you're the one. If you can hear my voice, I'm not talking to everybody, but I am talking to somebody. Your support actually matters. I'm a very young channel. Whatever level of engagement you can offer is seriously appreciated, and it would make the difference as I march my way towards July, where the investor needs to see certain metrics. So if that's you and you're willing and happy to support this mission, you can find the link and support the process. Ladies and gentlemen, we've done it. I don't know where the after party is at, but first round's on me. Thank you guys for coming. Peace, everybody. Peace, peace. cutting out the lights. That's your invitation to leave. That is it, you guys. We done did it. Find one of these other spaces on the app to spend your quality time. Monica, wait a minute. That's not Monica. Monica, is it? Oh, we might have an after party after all.
The golf company's in my house, but my house is in my company's.
Is that the Monica? I'm gonna send you an invitation. Monica Scarlett Pond. If you are who I think you are, I'd love to hear your voice in the unofficial portion. Monica, welcome to the stage.
Is this the after party?
Is this thing on? No, I'm gonna shut it down. But we've been doing something important, and I want you to consider joining into this conversation because I think you have a powerful point of view that could really add value to what we've been cooking. But no, I'm actually going to shut this party down. I'll be back Monday morning for the morning show. I know you sometimes get on in the morning, and I'll be back again next week for the more deep dive, this more professional grade space. But no, we're shutting it down. I want to do an after party. Let's meet offline because I have something called a happy hour that I want to do maybe on Friday nights where it'll be more like a chillism, a little bit less what do I say? Less gracious. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we'll catch up. All right. Peace, everybody. Thanks for coming. I'm shutting the room down. I promise this time. All right, guys. We made it. YouTube, thank you for holding space. If you're checking out the replay, then that probably means you're part way through the journey. If you're not and you're just seeing what I'm doing here, I would personally recommend go back to the beginning. I take a slow walk journey through diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I'm looking at it from a variety of lenses. I'm not done yet. My next and last one is going to be next week. It is the one that's probably going to cost me some friends because I want to talk about this intersection between DEI and gender-related issues. I think it is the peak to which the pendulum began to swing back in the other direction. So it's worthy of high examination. And over the course of our time together in homeroom, I'm going to be speaking specifically to this issue of gender in the classroom. And I have a particular point of view, and I want to share with you. So check me out. I'll be back live Monday morning. What else can I say, YouTube? We did it. Thank you for your support. Special shout out to Leticia Wilson. She is... you're amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much.